Welcome in, everybody. It's Belmont Stakes Week, and we are on the air with the Express Bet and First Bet First Call podcast. Jeremy Plonk, along with Jeff Siegel. 15 stakes races for the Belmont Stakes Festival Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Long Island, but 12 of them are in our crosshairs in this podcast for Friday and Saturday. 3 of the Friday variety, 9 of them on Belmont Stakes Saturday. And Jeff, we've got a lot of work to do and a lot of superstar horses to look forward to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fields are small, but the gambling might be better than people think because not every one of these races, some of them do, have a complete standout, but most have at least 2, maybe even 3 legitimate contenders. So we're going to try to be right on most of them. Racing will be good, and it looks like the weather, although it was kind of rainy and wet this morning in New York, looks like it's going to hold up for Saturday, which is going to be good. I want a fair chance for all, and I think we'll get that. So looking forward to some incredible racing this weekend at Belmont Park.
Well, everybody's hoping for dry conditions, except the people involved with We the People. I think the connections of that runner would like to see the skies open up. Of course, a major performance on the wet track in the Peter Pan. So a wet track will not certainly dampen the spirits of backers of We the People and the connections of that runner. We'll talk plenty more about the main event, the Belmont Stakes, as we get further along into this podcast. A lot of great promotions if you bet the Belmont Stakes weekend with First Bet and Express Bet. And we've got your handy helper, our tradition-rich wager guide, the First Bet and Express Bet Belmont Stakes wager guide, released this morning. For Thursday for the weekend racing. I'll take you through the artificial intelligence picks in the First Bet app for all 13 races on Saturday at Belmont Park. You've got 16 analysts around the first family of racetracks and properties, XBTV folks as well, chiming in to give you their Belmont Stakes thoughts. And I'll tell you, there is not a consensus among the 16 when it comes to top picks in this year's Belmont Stakes. It's a nice spread. I can give you a little hint there, but be sure to go to first.com/guide, and you can download first.com, 1st.com/guide, and you can download that Belmont Stakes wager guide. A lot of great information in there, historical stats and trends, and Patrick Maher from VEASAN also checking in with Jeff and I with full analysis of the Belmont Stakes. Eddie Olczyk gives his $100 wagering strategy for the Belmont. A lot to check out there. Millie Ball analyzes the 2 workouts we've seen for Rich Strike since the Kentucky Derby in that wager guide as well. And you can see the video yourself at xbtv.com of those 2 workouts for Rich Strike post-Kentucky Derby. If you're betting the Belmont Stakes with First and Express Bet, be sure to take advantage of the $10 money back special. Any win bet on the Belmont Stakes up to $10 will be refunded back into your account if your pick finishes second or third in the bid one, the Belmont Stakes. So be sure to take advantage of that money back special. Jeff, let's get handicapping for Friday, where 3 stakes races are in the middle day of the Belmont Stakes Festival of Racing. They've got 3 stakes races on Thursday. Friday's trio include the 2-mile Gold Cup. We've got the True North for the sprinters, and then we've got the New York Stakes for Chad Brown, or anyone in the filly and mare turf division as part of that Friday card. So races 8, 9, and 10 are where we're going to get Jeff handicapping and fired up for his first of 12 stakes picks here on the podcast. Jeff, let's go to the Belmont Gold Cup. Friday's race number 8 on the card. It's 2 miles on the turf. They're going to take a lap and a half around the expansive turf course at Belmont Park, start on the backstretch. Who do you like in the Belmont Gold Cup over 2 miles?
I actually like a horse here, and he's one of my better plays in the weekend. So starting off, maybe this will set the pattern for my week. In the 8th race in the Belmont Gold Cup, I really like number 1, Loft. This is a German-bred, a horse that's coming in from Germany, and he's very consistent, as you can see, first or second, 6 out of 10 starts. He's a 4-year-old gelding who has gotten better in his recent races. I actually had an opportunity to watch his last race on video on YouTube, and I would suggest that if you are interested in playing Loft, that you do the same. He is a horse that has got really good tactical speed. In other words, in that last race that was a Group 2, he sat second, third on the inside every step of the way, never came off the bridle at any stage, looked like he was looked like the winner throughout. And then when he was asked to quicken from the top of the stretch to the wire, which is about maybe 5/16 of a mile, he really accelerated and accelerated with 2 or 3 of the horses and held them sway and quickened very, very well. I just was very impressed with him, and and from what I've read, that he's shipped over really, really well. Looks great, as happy as a lark. So from his rail post, I wouldn't be surprised to see Loft sitting third or fourth early, and then from the top of the stretch to the wire exert his superiority. 4-1 in the morning line. The only concern is the regular rider couldn't come over, had some visa problems, but the jock who's scheduled to ride him has ridden him before, so I shouldn't think that should be a problem. I like Loft to win the Belmont Gold Cup.
When we talk about the pace in there, if Loft sits, maybe third in there, it'll be behind a Bond, most likely. This is a good front-running horse who has a rare win at 2 miles, won the Alan Jerkins wire-to-wire at Gulfstream Park back on Christmas Eve. And, a Bond was really good at that point in time and through the early part of the winter. As he lost a little bit, his numbers say no, but his performances, he's lost 3 straight races. Now, he did take on, top quality competition like Gufo in the Pan American, and then in the Man of War. So, like a lot of these horses are coming back in the Manhattan, the Grade 1 on Saturday. So is Bond getting some class relief here and getting back to 2 miles? Can that be helpful, or do you think he's off form?
No, he's certainly. I mean, I don't know whether he's getting any class relief facing a Loft, but the rest of them, yeah. The thing about Aban is he got beat at 3-5. Now he had trouble in the McDarmida, so I'll give him an excuse for then. I thought in the Pan American he had his chance and wasn't quite good enough. Maybe Gufo is a better horse in that race than he's facing here. And then last time out in the Man of War, he should have run better. And he was well backed in all 3 races. So yeah, you're right though, Jeremy. I mean, this is a different context. And if I were playing Loft enthusiastically as I'm going to do, I would certainly back up with the Bond because he's certainly at this level capable of bouncing back. I'm gambling that he won't, but I could see it happen. So for me, the main punch goes to Loft. I think the only one I'm worried about really is a Bond.
Loft owned by Manfred Osterman. That's not German. There's nothing that could be more German than that. And how can you bet against a guy named Manfred? That's a pretty sweet name, I gotta say. Let's go to the True North. We'll try to apply a little better handicapping strategy than just picking the Manfred. The 6.5 furlong True North is for sprinters, and it's interesting that we've got the Woody Stevens this weekend for the 3-year-old sprinters. We have the Met Mile for sprinters / middle distance horses. So the True North can kind of be watered down a little bit. And for Jackie's Warrior to show up in this spot, Jeff, I mean, this is taking the path of least resistance for sure. This is a Lounce type field, perhaps, maybe a Grade 3 type field beyond Jackie's Warrior. We know Baby Yoda ran the one massive race last year at Saratoga. We're still waiting for that to reappear. But Jackie's Warrior really kind of found the soft spot here in the weekend schedule. I
think what Steve Asmussen is concentrating on is trying to make Jackie's Warrior champion sprinter. And he probably feels that running in the Met Mile wouldn't really further that goal. And he also has to run against infinitely better horses than he's seeing here. It would be nice if I think Steve's probably thinking, look, I can run Jackie's Warrior 6 times this year. As long as I spot him in races like this, he could end up undefeated, or at least undefeated until the Breeders' Cup.
Right.
So I think it's the path of least resistance is the proper course. I think, especially when you're dealing with the 2 horses that are running, and we'll talk about them later in the Met Mile. I don't think Jackie's Warrior needs that at this stage. It's early in the year, maybe the last race of his career, but not during June of his final year.
I see no pitfalls here. This looks like an obvious single on all the late day wagers. There's a lot of 2-day wagers at Belmont Park on Saturday and Friday, multi-day wagers that that people may want to look at. I see no reason at all to do anything other than just take Jackie's Warrior and move through with the bingo space. Do you?
Yeah, that's how I see it too.
Yeah. So we'll move on from Jackie's Warrior to the next step in the stakes program on Friday at Belmont. It's the New York Grade 1, $750,000. This race is really taking on a higher and richer profile in recent years. 1.25 miles on the grass. These are the Filly Ameriturf division. Anytime you say Filly Ameriturf, you're talking Chad Brown. We mentioned in a podcast earlier this year that he's just won like every big turf stakes for the Fillies and Mares, going back to Pegasus World Cup Day to Keeneland to Churchill on the Undercard Derby weekend, the Bouguet at Belmont. If there's been a good Filly Ameriturf race this year, he's won it. And he is loaded because this is the intersection of all of his previous winners. You've got Bleecker Street in here, Virginia Joy, Rougier, and Flighty Lady stepping up in class, one who hasn't been among those. But Chad's got 4. Which of his quartet do you like best is probably the best way to approach it.
Well, yeah, you're right. 7 starters, 4 Chad Browns, and all 4 owned by Peter Brandt. So I think he's probably going to win with one of them. But in terms of the gambling aspect, Rougier is 6-5 on the morning line, and one of the reasons why she is because winner of the Bouguet last time out at Belmont, very impressively. Pratt rode her that day. Pratt also rode the undefeated Bleecker Street. She is a perfect 6 for 6. I don't know whether he had a choice or not. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But he opts for Rougier, so that probably tells you where the pecking order is in terms of the fillies in the Chad Brown barn. So, this is look. They're all high quality, and if one doesn't show up with their A game, the next one can win. But from what I could gather, Rougier, who was a Group 1 performer overseas and a high quality mare, she won the Prix de l'Opera on Arc Day last October. And certainly looked the part winning the Bouguet. I would have to think that she would be the preferred of the 4, and the morning line reflects that at 6-5.
I agree. I think Family Way is interesting as the non-Chad in the race. Brendan Walsh trades this one coming off a runner-up at Keeneland in the Bewitched behind Warlike Goddess, who's really good at Keeneland. Warlike Goddess, of course. So that was a good effort last time, finishing second. They're a holding position throughout as Warlike Goddess came from off the pace and rolled home there. But Family Way, certainly no snubbing her form. She's in really good form. But to knock off 4 Chad Browns, you probably want to get about 15-1 because that's the kind of proposition. When Chad Brown's lining up 4 in a Grade 1 Filly Ameriturf race at Belmont Park, if you're going to beat him, you should get about 15-1 to do that. And you're not going to get that on the outside runner. So it's just, to me, it's the Chads. I like Rougier in there as well as you do. Jackie's Warrior, Rougier, probably a pretty chalky way to end the day at Belmont on Friday. So maybe you want to get in a little extra on Jeff's pick Loft in the 8th race on the card in the Gold Cup, because that's going to be the best price opportunity probably of the 3 races on Friday at Belmont. Let's pivot our attention to Saturday's card, Belmont Stakes Day, where 9 stakes races are part of a 13-race card. They begin at 11:20 a.m. Eastern. It's going to run till like almost 9 o'clock at night, so pace yourself. We always like to tell people these days are long. Don't blow everything early in the card. But handicap ahead, know your strategies. If you're playing multi-race bets, you're not really worried a whole lot about tote board action unless it's the opening race of it. You're not worried about visuals, again, unless it's the opening race. So if you want to get your multi-race wagers in early in the day on one of these long days, that's not a bad strategy. You'll have the amount of money spent that you want and in your bankroll properly set up that way, and you won't be making second-guessing decisions. Unless you're one who's big on visuals or you really want to see the tote board for the first leg of a multi-race wager on a 13-race card like we've got Saturday at Belmont with all the multiple pick 4s and pick 5s throughout the day, I would highly recommend that you just go ahead and make your plays early in those wagers. And again, you can always go back and change a ticket. You've got it in early. You've got the investment made. If you go in and you see something, a horse flips in the paddock that you were using in the first leg or something, you can go back and make a correction and edit to your wager. There's no problem with that. So think ahead, plan ahead. That's the main topic here on these long race stakes. At Belmont Park on Saturday, we've got $20,000 in pick 4 and pick 5 hit and splits for you as horse players to take part in. So be sure to check out the promo page at expressbet.com and on the First Bet app, where the promos will tell you $20,000 in pick 4 and pick 5 hit and splits to be shared amongst players just on our platforms if you hit them on Saturday at Belmont Park. So it's really a great way for you to make extra cabbage on your pick fours and pick fives, because you'll not only get your pari-mutuel winnings, but you'll split with those on our app and on the desktop at ExpressBet and FirstBet, who also get those selected wagers. So the pick fours, pick fives, again, $20,000 extra seeded in there from the good folks at First. So check out those hit and split promos. You can see which races they're involved in on the promo page at expressbet.com. And again, on the FirstBet app, you click down at the bottom right for more, and you get all the promos to set you up. Let's get rocking and rolling, Jeff Siegel, for 9 stakes races in succession on Belmont Stakes Day. Third on the card is our first stakes race of the day. And look, there are some good ones in here. It's a short field. It's a theme we're going to see throughout the day. Just 5 in here. But when you got Echo Zulu and Matareya in here, you've got a high-quality matchup. You've got a showdown kind of race. Is it Matareya? Is it the champion Echo Zulu? One or the other, or somebody else, Jeff?
No, it's one or the other. I think. I'm not sure. I think the other ones are in there to get some minor grade 1 placing black type. That'll help them down the road. But I looked at this race and I actually opted for Matareya over Echo Zulu. I've seen this before, and it may not be applicable to Echo Zulu, but I've seen some really great 2-year-old fillies who don't make a lot of progress at 3.
Right.
I don't think Echo Zulu necessarily has gone backwards so much, but I don't think she's gotten any better either. I think she's probably the same filly she was last year, which is certainly good enough. She was champion. But Matareya looks to me like she's really raising her game, if you know what I mean. And I think she's got a chance to be a better 3 than she was as a 2, being by Pioneer, the Nile out of a mare by Bernardini. She's really, I think, has a chance to, in due time, go better over distance to ground. She probably wasn't quite ready to do that when she ran in the Alcibiades in her second start last fall. But her 3 races, recent races this year, all easy wins by daylight with fast numbers, and doing it like a filly who could have done more if required. And that's why I'm going with the longer price of the 2 at 6 to 5. Matareya to beat Echo Zulu, who is 3 to 5. And we'll find out if Matareya is ready to take control of the division, and then we'll see what happens down the road. But she is very, very impressive for Brad Cox.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter about the Kentucky Derby losing horses throughout the course of the series. And look at the 3-year-old filly division. Here we are to the Acorn, and the only horse out of the Kentucky Oaks is Echo Zulu here. And they're probably in this race because they feel like they need to shorten up, that the 1 1/8 got to her. So there is some attrition in the 3-year-old filly division this year as well. Once upon a time, you saw like Silver Bullet Day running throughout the 3-year-old races on the corresponding Triple Crown cards, but not the case this year with the fillies, just as it was with the Colts. Jeff, Matareya gets in front of Echo Zulu early coming out of the sprints, or who do you see on top? Because the other 3 filler horses in this race don't have any early speed, and none of those other 3 are trained by Brad Cox or Steve Asmussen, so they're not going to be used as any kind of rabbit or anything like that in this race. This really is the 2 best horses, the 2 fastest horses, and everybody else is going to be several lengths behind them. Who do you see in front?
Whoever wants it. And I think maybe Echo Zulu will want it more than Matareya. I'm sure Pratt will look over to his right, see what Rosario's doing. And if he's going to take a hold of Echo Zulu, I'm sure Flaviana will be aggressive and go for it. You don't look at Matareya necessarily as a front-running type. And yet the 2 races that she did make the lead, she ended up winning by 4.5 and then 5.5. So, I mean, I don't think that they're going to be opposed to grabbing and taking the lead if they decide to grab Echo Zulu or not. And if Echo Zulu goes and establishes the pace, Pratt's just going to draft in right behind her, which is another reason why I like Matareya. I don't think it matters one way or the other. I wouldn't want Echo Zulu sitting second to Matareya, though. I don't think that would be good for her, and that's one of the reasons why I think Pratt might be a little bit more aggressive if he notices that Rosario is not hell-bent on getting to the front. If you give Matareya the lead in this race, she's not going to look back, I don't think.
Matareya versus Echo Zulu, one of many interesting head-to-head matchups throughout the course of the Belmont Stakes card, and we'll find out early. Race number 3 on the program just after noon, so a little lunchtime on the East Coast, a little breakfast championship kind of clash for Jeff on the West Coast. So race number 4, we go back to back. And from a gambling standpoint, you might be looking at multi-race wagers today, Saturday, daily doubles, pick threes, pick fours as your best hope. You're not going to make any money straight up in a race like we saw the Acorn. You're not going to make a lot of money either in playing exactas in some of those fields. So the multi-race wagers might be the way to go. If you find a horse you really like, take one side. As our good friend Dick Girardi always says, give it the one punch. That's just one combination that you punch many times and try to go after it. I think a lot of rolling daily doubles that pay $13 could be your really good approach this day. Take 2 logical horses, try to get $12, $13, $14 out of them, make them into 5 and 6 to 1 shots. If you can knock down both and play those straight. If you're a $20 better per race, then, $20 on a one punch kind of double can get you $130 back, and that's not a bad way to go on some of these races throughout the card. So next race we get on the program, the 4th, is the Just a Game, a mile on the turf. These are fillies and mares, and like we had with the New York Stakes, Jeff, for the fillies and mares on Friday, Chad Brown reigning with 4 of the 7 in there. The Just a Game is for the milers in the filly and mare turf division. Chad's got Regal Glory, he's got Speak of the Devil, he's got In Italian. Just 3 of the 5 runners in here, 60% of the field. He had 4 of 7 in the New York. So Chad's loaded, but there are others in this race. Phil D'Amato bringing Legs Galore from your backyard in Santa Anita. And Bill Mott with Wakanaka coming from Saratoga, based in upstate New York, going to come down for the race. Team Valor, your former partners with Wakanaka. This is a pretty deep race for only 5 in here. That's kind of what we'll talk about as the race is going. This one much deeper than the Acorn.
Yeah, I mean, Speak of the Devil was awesome in victory in her U.S. debut. She had won her 2 prior races in France in over heavy ground, but did so in listed stakes company, and then moved into the grade 2. And when she won that race, I mean, I was just blown away. And then, of course, I realized later on, after looking at all the other races, that all the closers were winning. So on the grass, on that new grass course, so maybe that made her look better than she is. But I tell you, I mean, she swept on by. She was even money. I thought she couldn't lose, and at the 5/16 pole, she had a lot to do. I said, and they were going slow early. I said, there's no way she gets up. And then she wheeled to the outside and just blew them away. Just awesome. And that might be the kind of mare that she is. She's 15 races into her career. So you would think that her form has been pretty much established. But yes, it has been. I mean, she was needing the head in Group 1 company at Deauville last summer. So, I mean, it's not like she's just getting good. She's just always been good. And against this group, I with pace in the race, and there is going to be enough pace. And Italian, obviously, Legs Galore is going to go from the rail. Yeah. She's going to just draft in and be wherever she wants to be. I mean, I don't see Speak of the Devil losing if, in fact, she's as good as she looked at Churchill and in some of her races in France.
And this is essentially a one-turn mile. There's a little dog leg at the start, but this is the kind of race where they can really just spread out with a long run down the backstretch, one turn and a sprint for home. This is kind of like a no-excuse kind of layout, right? Best horse should absolutely win a race like this. Smallish field size, defined pace. They're not going to clump up. We know that there's 2 speed horses in here, a tremendously long run down the backstretch. This should just set up for the best run at the wire to win it. And the way we saw it last time was Speak of the Devil. Any repeat of that, Jeff, she's back in the winner's circle in the Just a Game, I would have to think. Let's go to race number 5, the Brooklyn. After a turf mile, we get to the main track at a 1.5 miles, kind of a precursor, if you will, earlier in the card to the Belmont Stakes. 1 lap around Big Sandy for the grade 2, $400,000 Brooklyn. We've got some distance specialists in this race. We've got some horses who are kind of handicap division regulars, like Fearless. Certainly the distance specialist being Lone Rock, a horse who won this race last year by 11 lengths. Good field. Max Player's in here at age 5. He was the last horse to participate in all 3 legs of the Triple Crown. For a little trivia, he's 5 now, but he ran in all 3 legs of the 2020 Triple Crown, and we didn't have anybody do that last year with this. So Max Player, a horse that people are familiar with, and a winner over the Belmont track in the Suburban, he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup, moved to Saratoga last year. But this is a nice group in here. Who'd you end up with at a mile and a half?
I went with Lone Rock. He is 2-1. I don't necessarily think that he has to win at 2-1, but I remember his win in this race last year, and it was just devastating. I mean, he won by 11. He looked like the greatest horse of all time, and at the time, he was pretty darn good. And now he's back in winning form. Although that win at Churchill in the slop, he was 30 cents in the dollar. He didn't really have to do anything, but at least it was confidence building win. And I love the fact that he has tactical speed. He doesn't need to lead to win. He'll be in the fray. Some of these others in this race are good, but they're questionable at a mile and a half. And that's why, I look at a horse like Fearless, who I've always liked. I just don't know if he wants to run this far. And the same thing for Warrant, who ran so well out here in the Untitled Handicap and then was disappointed in the Ben Ali. So I don't know about those two horses. I'm pretty confident Lone Rock's going to show up with this race. The one horse that I would definitely throw in is First Constitution, because he looks like, you never know which version you're going to get, but if he shows up with his A game, he can be really tough, especially on the front end. And if they concede the lead to him, and it seems to me that Pletcher is going to tell Lezcano, look, go to the front, let them chase you down, and if they don't go with you, maybe you keep rolling to the wire. I could see First Constitution outrunning himself. I could also finishing 7th. So he's not a main play, but he's a protection play. I'm much more confident that Lone Rock's going to fire and run his race than I am First Constitution. But First Constitution, if he runs his race, he can be tough. So I'm going to use those two and see if I can survive just using those two in my rolling exotics.
Yeah, it looks like this race really sets up pace-wise pretty obvious, right? First Constitution to the front. You got Lone Rock probably with Warrant in the fight to sit second in here. And then the others will kind of bide their time as mile and a halfers and hope that they come back to them. But as we see a lot of times in these marathon-type trips, it's not for the deep closers. It's for the horses who can just kind of keep pounding out decent fractions. Fearless has been well bet in almost every one of his career starts. He could go off with a little bit of a price and offer some overlay. I don't know if he's a mile and a half horse. He doesn't strike me as a mile and a half, but he's a really solid handicap division, grade 2, grade 3 type, and could fit with most of these in here. But yeah, First Constitution to the front. That's the kind of horse, Jeff, that can really be a separator for you, because I don't think First Constitution is going to get bet hard. And so I think he's kind of you might be all right if you can get him to upset in your multi-race wagers. This will end up the early pick 5 and races like that, the early pick 4. It could be a valuable horse in race number 5 that I think First Constitution is going to be a little bit of an overlay compared to some of the others for the multi-race bets. There will be no overlays in race number 6, though. I can assure you that. It's the Woody Stevens, grade 1 for the 3-year-old sprinters, and as well as Jack Christopher ran in his comeback race in the Pate Mile, coupled with the ballyhoo that he had coming into his career at Saratoga last year, and that he's undefeated. Jack Christopher is going to be one of the shortest price favorites on the Saturday card, Jeff. Do you see anybody warming him up?
Not really. And here's the other thing about this race: 7 furlong sprint, and there really isn't a sprinter stretching out type of horse. So the pace scenario doesn't look that intense, and I think if Jack Christopher doesn't make any mistakes at the gate, he could easily be in front. Papa Cap is not that quick. I know him from California. Witt certainly is not. The one horse that I think and I thought this was going to be a good colt, and I actually liked him in the Wood Memorial, was Morello, and he got off bad and just got all messed up. I think he has a chance to rebound and run really well here. I don't expect him to beat Jack Christopher, but he's the second horse. He's not the second horse in the morning line, but he's, to me, the second horse. And I think you're going to see a really, really good effort from Morello. Whether or not it's good enough to beat Jack Christopher is problematic, but I think those two might separate themselves in the field.
6-horse field with the Colt Exact with Jack Christopher over Morello. What do we expect there? Maybe $12 for 2, 14.
I'll take that.
Yeah, get $12 on that. That might be a good exact play there in the Woody Stevens. I agree with you. I think it's cold cock, those two. So 1-4 exact until they tell you to step away from the window that you punched it too many times in race 6. Let's go to the 7th. It's the Ogden Phipps $500,000 grade 1 here for the Distaff division. A mile and a 16th, around 1 turn at Belmont Park on the expansive oval there. They'll start in the chute on the backstretch and have a long run to the one and only turn. Latruska was a winner of this race last year in wire-to-wire fashion over Bonnie South. Those two are back. They drew the first 2 posts in this field, but you've got Malathop, Clairiere, and Search Result, a field of 5 that has absolutely no fluff.
This is a really good addition, a Breeders' Cup type of race. Latruska on the rail, I obviously respect her. I mean, how could you not? The question is, how much, if any, will Search Result put pressure on her and soften her up? It may not happen. When you go a mile and 1/16 at a 1 turn at Belmont, there's a long run before they hit the far turn, and most of these jocks aren't sending, so I could see Latruska make the lead. And if Search Results can put some pressure on her and soften her up a little bit, then that could set things up for Malafat, who are, I'm picking because of Curlin, but I mean, 1-7 out of 9. And the thing about her is, if you look at her form, she's only had 2 one-turn races in her life, and those were the first 2 races of her career, and she won them both very impressively. And I think I could see Malafat kind of settling right behind the, not right behind the leaders, but somewhere 4 or 5 lengths off the pack, and then build up her momentum. And she doesn't have a great turn of foot, but she has a long run in her. Yeah. And I think Malafat will have dead aim on, hopefully, what will be Latruska and Search Results hooking up somewhere along the line, and then have dead aim on both of them. And if she's good enough, this is the time to prove it. You know what I mean? So right. I'm going to try her at 5-2. I recognize that betting against Latruska is usually not the wise thing to do. I did bet against Latruska though in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and I thought I was smart Malafat, and she only got beat a half length, and she came through down on the rail, which was the deepest part of the race. I wish she had rallied wide, but so it's not impossible. So I'm going to try to beat her with number 3 Malafat.
If only you had March Lorraine in the Breeders' Cup, right? Sometimes you have the right idea. You beat the heavy favorite, but the one that wins you couldn't have come up with. About the pace in here, Search Results, you mentioned, is the potential pressure. You got Irad Ortiz riding that one, and Latruska's Jose Ortiz. I mean, you watch enough New York racing, those two guys don't go after each other very often to compromise. It's not any kind of, accusation of collusion or anything like that, but it's just reality of race watching. So I don't know how fast Search Results will go after Latruska, but that's got to happen if somebody else is going to come and catch Latruska. Interesting about this being a 1-turn race, because Latruska, you look at that successful appeal as the dam sire, and you think, okay, that's like 1-turn sprint. Then you go down to Malathot and Dreaming of Julia. Her dam was really better around 1 turn than she was at 2. And then you got Clairiere, who's out of cavorting, who was a really good 1-turn late running sprinter. So you got 3 big players in this race who really should all love the mile and a 16th and the 1-turn nature of it based on their results and their pedigree. So what a showdown race. Should be a lot of fun. That being race number 7 on Saturday, the Ogden Phipps, one of the many grade 1s on the card. As we turn to race number 8 on the card, the Japer. The Japer's got $400,000 purse. Grade 1 company for the turf sprinters, one of the few. I can't think of another off the top of my head, turf sprints in America that are grade 1 before the Breeders' Cup turf sprint. I'm not sure there are other turf sprints that are grade 1s off the top of my head. Maybe there's another one out there that I'm forgetting about. But the Japer's going to be one, Jeff, that a lot of people are going to be trying to find something here, right? Because we've got a lot of these 2-horse, 3-horse showdowns in 5-horse fields. Here we have a big field size, and this is where people are going to get a little crazy, and they're going to try to spread all over the place in this race because they're going to think this is the chance to make the money. The value play to me would be a logical horse at an overlay price in this case, and I know you're picking a Rest Me Red in here, and I think that's kind of the right approach in this race because I think there's going to be a lot of impatient money on Saturday in this race because people have just sat through 3 or 4 or 5 races in a row that were just tough bets that you knew you weren't going to play any exactas, tries, supers, and get anything big in returns. I think there's going to be a lot of fishing money in this race. And if you just hit the logical horse, I think you're going to get an overlay.
I looked at the race and thought about the exact same thing that you just mentioned, in that Arrest Me Red, people are going to say, I don't want to bet the favorite. I keep, that's, especially in a race like this where there's so many other possibilities. Let's ignore Arrest Me Red and see if we can find something else. But Arrest Me Red is a very, very good turf sprinter. I think I mentioned this before. I actually liked him going into the Breeders' Cup turf sprint last year against Wesley's other horse, Golden Pal, which would have turned out to be insanity, but before the race, I thought.
Right.
And but then he had a problem, didn't run, and then came back and won a stakes at the Aqueduct. And if you look at his form, he's only had 9 starts with 6 wins. He's won at Belmont Park in the past. And how about this race? This is a 6 furlong turf sprint. Another one of these races without a front runner. I mean, not that Arrest Me Red has to be in front. He certainly doesn't. But he's another one of these horses that in the 2 races that he was able to make the lead in the first quarter, he won both of them. And I'm not so sure he won't be able to do the same thing here.
I think he will.
And if he isn't in front, he's going to be comfortably placed behind a moderate opening quarter, which is just fine. I don't see any reason why Arrest Me Red won't come back and run back to his win at Churchill, which was very good. The horse that he beat, Brand, came out of that race and won here in California to verify the race. So I like Arrest Me Red back. I'm hoping to get 5-2 or maybe even a little higher, because people are going to be fishing at one of the rare races. They can try to find a decent price, and they might just settle on that. But Arrest Me Red, to me, there's absolutely no reason why he won't run back to his best race, which I believe is good enough to beat this field.
And I think when you're looking at multi-race wagers, this is the race people are going 5, 6, 7 deep, because they're trying to catch a price. They know they can in the others. You single Arrest Me Red in this race as many times as you can. And if that allows you to use 2 deep and you want to beat Latruska with somebody else, that gives you that second option, right? If you want to try to beat Jackie's Warrior with somebody else, I would rather take one other horse in one of those races than in this one, because everybody's going to be doing the same thing. Every ticket in America practically is going to have 4 or 5 horses on it, and only one of them is going to cash. There's going to be a lot of wasted money combinations. Like Arrest Me Red could pay, say he's 5-2 on the toe board, he could pay in the multi-race wagers like a 5 or 6 to 1 shot winning the race, because everybody's spreading out. I think you just single this horse and make it happen. I would say for the exotics, Grace Creek's a little bit interesting to me, because this is a talented horse who things haven't gone right since coming to Paulo Lobo's barn. But I think cutting back, putting the blinkers on makes him a little bit interesting underneath. And, I've been playing gear jockey, it seems like, all year. But Rusty Arnold has repeatedly said he's not 5 and 5.5 furlong turf sprinter. And I went ahead and played him a couple times anyway. He set the net up before. He needs to get back to these a little bit elongated type turf sprints, like when he won at Kentucky Downs. He does get the 6 furlongs here at Belmont in the turf sprint ranks. So the Japer at 6 furlongs could help gear jockey, but I don't think anybody touches Arrest Me Red in here. And Wesley Ward, we know he wins a lot of races at Keeneland, but his June stakes record at Belmont, like around these Belmont races, is phenomenal. He has horses aimed for this week at Belmont Park, a lot of short races, turf sprints, young horses. Wesley Ward has a great percentage here, right around Belmont time at Belmont Park over the last several years. He's got him aimed here, and I think Arrest Me Red will be a very handy winner of the 8th. Then just take the favorite and go with it. To the 9th we go. It's the Metropolitan Handicap, known as the Met Mile. Used to be a Memorial Day staple. Now it's an undercard race at the Belmont Stakes for the last several years. 3-year-olds and up in the handicap division. We're not going to see any 3-year-olds in this day and age try to take on older horses in this race, Jeff. And certainly in a year when we have Flightline and Speaker's Corner. And, oh, by the way, the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner in here, Aloha West. It's a field of 5. You do have the one filler horse, Informative, who's completely overmatched in here. The 4th choice in the race, Happy Savers, a grade 1 place type horse and a grade 1 winner of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So the 4th horse in this race is quality. So it's a good field. We wish we had bigger field sizes, no question. And I don't know what it does, in terms of a gambling opportunity here, because maybe you get something on Speaker's Corner if you like him, but Flightline is so good. I'm not going to try to beat him.
Interesting that this is a handicap. You don't see many of these anymore. And I'm also interested to see, and I guess based on, I guess, based on accomplishment, Speaker's Corner should be high weight, and he is at 125. But when you have a handicap and your high weight is not the favorite, something usually is wrong there.
Well, and look, the spread in the weights is 3 pounds down to
Yeah.
122. I mean, informative doesn't belong, but
Right.
geez, this isn't much of a handicap.
No, it really isn't, and it didn't. Something it doesn't have to be really, if you
Right.
think about it. I mean, they're all good enough to win at equal weights if they are. Flightline has trained unbelievably well, and when I say that, not because he's been going fast, but because he's been so relaxed. You think a horse this fast would tear out of there in the morning? And I've seen fast horses that are hard to train because they want to do so much. And Flightline, when I was watching him back in early May, he was kind of fresh and he was trying to get on with it early and a little bit keen. And but since then, I mean, there was recent races. He's going off like a 1.5 mile horse. He just goes off nice and relaxed and easy and just never spending any energy whatsoever in his workouts and still going fast. So it tells me that he's not only as good as he used to be, maybe even better, which is a scary thought. I was talking to John Sadler on the phone this morning, and I asked him what he thought Speaker's Corner would do. Is he going to try to make it a match race and try to soften up Flightline? And that might be suicidal, but if you hand Flightline the lead, that's not going to work either. So it's kind of being, I mean, I don't know what Mott and Alvarado are planning on doing here. They are outside, so they can kind of choose their strategy, whichever it may be. But there is no strategy with Flightline, and he breaks. And by the way, in the Malibu, he didn't even break that day, and he still made the lead. So, but he doesn't need the lead. We saw that. So he's a nice and relaxed kind of horse. But from the rail, I think he's going to make the lead on the inside, and Speaker's Corner and Alvarado will stalk him. And I don't know whether when they hit that far turn, and that's when Flightline kind of opens up. I'm not sure Speaker's Corner can stay with him. But I will say this: Speaker's Corner is a terrific racehorse. He is the real deal. And I'm glad to see Flightline run against a horse that good, because I really want to see how good Flightline is. And if he can handle Speaker's Corner like he's handled everybody else, then he is one of the ones for sure.
A couple points here. I think tactically, you'll see Pratt out and about the 5 path down the backstretch. I think Flightline's going to stay well off the rail. And then when they hit that bend, then he's going to make that little quick left-hand turn and try to get some separation. I think tactically, and then he can maybe float Speaker's Corner a little bit out and then make that first run to the wire. So I think when you watch the head-on or the overhead, watch the tactics of Flavian Pratt, Flightline to the inside of Speaker's Corner, unless he concedes to lead to Speaker's Corner. But I don't see that. I agree with you. I think Flightline is the faster of the two, and I think Pratt's going to come out towards the middle of the track because they have that long run down the backstretch, and then just try to make that little quick dog leg left to the rail as they hit the big turn there at Belmont and try to get some separation right there. Hey, and the other thing I want to mention about this race, Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners and Wayne Catalano, thank you for running Aloha West in the Met Mile. This is a sporting gesture that we would have seen with a Breeders' Cup Sprint winner like a Gulch or somebody like that back in the day. This is a middle distance race, right? And the great sprinters should be considered in the Met Mile, and they should be horses that you want to run in a race like this. And the fact that there are two absolute superstars in here at Flightline and Speaker's Corner, that they're still willing to take the shot. They could have took the Jackie's Warrior path and went to the sprint race, the True North, and they would have been second choice in there easily. And and maybe all they got to beat is Jackie's Warrior, but they're going for the $1 million. They're going for the Grade 1. And Flightline and Speaker's Corner have similar running styles. So if anybody benefits from them doing a little too much, it could be Aloha West under Jose Ortiz. But I really appreciate them running this horse in this race, as is Happy Saber to run in here, because that's a cutback. This is a horse who's won the Jockey Club Gold Cup and finished second in the Jockey Club Gold Cup at 1.25 miles over the past 2 years, and they're cutting back to the mile. It makes for a great race. You've got an intersectional group, right? You've got routers, you've got sprinters, you've got milers. This is what we want to see in the Met Mile, and you only get that when connections are willing to take a little bit of a chance. So hats off to the crew surrounding Aloha West and also Happy Saber in there, because I think that makes for a better Met Mile. A couple more of those types, and we have an unbelievable betting race to go along with the fact that it should be a great matchup on the racetrack. But Jeff, are you singling Flightline for multi-race wagers, or are you a two deeper with Speaker?
No, I'm going to be sink or swim with Flightline. I think you have to. I do want to mention though that Aloha West in this race actually makes sense to me. They've already won a Breeders' Cup Sprint. Now, if they can, show that he can beat these kind of horses in a mile, there's so much to gain by doing that. No one's going to feel less of Aloha West if he can't beat these two horses. So, the gain, the upside for that kind of win would be marvelous for them. And look, I didn't think he had much chance to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He won that, so I guess they figure maybe he can be this good. As for Happy Saver, interesting spotting here by Todd Pletcher. This is a horse that obviously is a good horse, but he's undefeated in one-turn races. And I think maybe he's thinking that Todd's figuring, first race he won off by 5 going 7/8. He won a one-turn mile at Belmont. Maybe the two favorites hook each other up. Maybe turning back to a one-turn race, Happy Saver can kind of sit behind and make a run. So I think Pletcher is probably thinking it's not impossible. We'll see. Maybe this is dimension that Happy Saver can rise back to his best. So this is not just a match race. It's not just Flightline. This is a pivotal race in Horse of the Year type of balloting. This is the kind of race that jumpstarts you and really sets the table for the second half of the year. So only 5 in there, but I think we've got the right horses in the race.
So the 10th, we go on Saturday at Belmont Park. It's the Manhattan, Grade 1, $750,000 at a mile and a quarter on the turf. It's the traditional race right before the Belmont Stakes. And this is the other race, along with the Japer on the card, Jeff, where I think fans are going to figure we've got to make some money in this one, right? I mean, this is one where you've got a big field of 10. You've got some quality options. You've got, multiple Chad Brown runners in there. You've got Santon in good form right now. Brad Motion's got a Grade 1 winner lined up well. You've got, Chad with the series of runners. Gufo's in good form as always for Christophe Clement. There are good options in this race, and I think people are going to feel like I've got a spread here. I've got to get a little bit of action. But to me, I think the race is Santon and Gufo and then one of the Chads, and you got to figure out which one of the Chads you like best. To me, I think it's Ad Homo, and that's the way I went with just focusing on those 3 horses in my bets. In the Express Bet Race of the Week, which you can get in the email newsletter each week. Sign up for that at expressbet.com. And Jeff, I think you focus here on, I think, the 3 horses that I think are best in here, Santon, Gufo, and Ad Homo, and let everybody else fish. There are some other good options in here, but I think you're getting an overlay on horses that are very rock solid.
Yeah, I went with Santon on top like you did. And again, the pace situation looks blackboardish. Tribhuven's going to go, and I think Santon's got a chance to draft in behind them. And at a mile and a quarter, I think that's going to help Santon. He doesn't have a great turn of foot. I wouldn't say he's a grinder because he can quicken, but he's going to be in the right place at the right time, I think, turning into the stretch. And I don't think you want him coming from way back, but the pace scenario is such where I think Affleone can put Santon right in behind the leader and then have his chance to win the race. And liked his Turf Classic win at Churchill. That was good. 2 Emmys got loose in the lead at Fairgrounds, and Santon stayed on, but he just couldn't quicken. I like Santon on top. He's not a single by any stretch of the imagination. I think the way that you've I think the way you've set up the race are obviously is good. Gufo is good with Rosario. I think he's going to run big. And Hamo was favored in his last race against Santon, finished 3rd, but he's got form overseas that makes him very dangerous. And Pratt rides him back. So I think those are the 3. And then maybe if you want to go a little deeper and throw some prices in, that's fine as well. But this is the one race, honestly, that I don't really have a great feel other than certainly I'm going to use Santon, and maybe he gets the bulk of the play, but it's still a kind of an open race, and we shall see.
If there are softer conditions, almost every horse in this race will love it. There's a lot of foreign form and foreign pedigrees and good performances on softer turf courses. So I wouldn't change too much of what you think if the conditions come up a little bit on the softer side. We didn't mention Channel Maker, of course, the champion turf horse from 2020. He was impressive beyond what I thought he could do in the Elkhorn in his return race at Keeneland. I was, I was questioning him that day, and he ran a good race in his comeback and Belmont's horses have been running big at the big levels throughout the course of the year. So Channel Maker in there certainly adds some depth. One of the best, if not the best betting race on the card, the Manhattan Stakes. Again, it's our express bet race of the week. To the 11th and featured race we go Saturday, final leg of the 2022 Triple Crown. It's the test of the champion in a mile and a half, one lap around the main track at Belmont Park for the $1.5 million Belmont Stakes. Jeff, if you would have told me on May 13th or even May 14th in the middle of the afternoon that we, the people, would be the favorite for the Belmont Stakes, I would have laughed you off the podcast. But by the end of the day, on May 14th, we, the people, made a statement on the sealed wet track at Belmont in the Peter Pan to win by 10. The Derby winner passed on the Preakness. The Preakness winner passed on the Belmont. And here we are with a horse who was beaten 13 lengths in an inconsequential year of the Arkansas Derby as the 2-1 morning line favorite for the Belmont. Interesting, to say the least, the way this has turned out.
I didn't prepare myself to try to predict the morning line after entries, but I must admit I was surprised to see We the People at 2-1. I understand if it's a wet track. It's not, apparently it's not going to be raining on Saturday. Last we checked, so that's good. Right. But I'm looking at We the People, and I'm saying to myself, regardless of trip or pace, could We the People have run? Could he have run as well as Rich Strike did in the Derby in any race, other than not even in the Derby, but any race? And I just don't see it. I know he won his first two races at Oaklawn against the wind, and then he was supposed to run better in the Arkansas Derby, and that didn't work. So I just don't understand why this is it. I just can't.
It's the 103 buyer. That's it. I mean, the New York guys are, buyer disciples, no question about it. And a lot of New York bettors are buyer disciples.
Well, I guess so. And you but still, I mean, I went back. I remembered how good Rich Strike ran in the Derby, so I went back and watched it like 4 times again yesterday, just to make sure that my memory wasn't failing me.
Right.
It often does. And I said to myself, who in this 3-year-old crop could have done what he did in that race? And you might say, okay, all right, great. He ran great. We know he ran great. He, from the 3/8 pole, the quarter pole, he got stopped cold. He had nowhere to go. He lost all his momentum. He was given impossible tasks from the quarter pole home against horses that are top quality horses and weren't coming back to him. And he still ran by them like they were standing still. And so I said, okay, maybe it was a fluke. You can't run that well and be a fluke. You can't do it. Mm-hmm. All right, maybe he's gone the other way since then. I've seen that happen. So I watched him train. I mean, he's had 5 weeks in between races. He's training unbelievably well. He looks happy. He looks sharp. He looks ready to explode again. I don't see We the People beating him at 1.5 miles. I don't even know if We the People can go 1.5 miles. Now, Rich Strike is by Keen Ice. Now, Keen Ice didn't even win his first Grade 1 until the Travers, so he was a late developer by Curlin. And I just think Rich Strike, I mean, I know that people are going to think, oh, he won because of a setup. He did not win because they ran 21-4, 45 and change, or whatever it was. It helped, but I don't think it would have. He still would have come home in 24, and I think he would have blown him away anyway, especially if he'd gotten through. I don't know, Jeremy. I read all the negative things about Rich Strike, and while he's he's going to be overbet and this and stuff, he's the third choice on the board. If he was 7-5, I'd say, all right, maybe. But he's 7-2. I will take 7-2. I will take,
You take 2-1 on We the People and say that there's some kind of value. Like if you have the overreaction to one race, right? If you say, well, Rich Strike is nothing except that one race, what the hell is We the People without that one race, right? I mean, if he's coming into this race off a 73 buyer, 7th beaten 13, he's 15-1 in the morning line. So he too, like Rich Strike, is being evaluated on just one race. Now, to his credit, he does have what looks to be a lone speed situation, right? I think We the People catches a race that does not have any other speed to it. It's going to have to be speed from, Skippy Longstocking, maybe in the 2-hole, trying to go with him as Skippy, was able to press the pace in the Mucho Macho Man in 45 and change. So we know he's fast enough if the rider intent is there. So the 1 and the 2 probably dictate the pace in here. There's not a lot of other speed in this year's Belmont, but look, if you tell me We the People is lone speed, I still look at him as minimum 6, 7, 8 to 1.
I will say that, Jeremy, I'll say this. I think Nest is going to be right up there as well. She's not one of these. She's not fast, but if We the People is going to go 24, 48 and change, Nest is going to be right with him. And Nest is a stayer. She doesn't have the turn of foot. She is a typical, long distance staying son of a daughter of Curlin, and I don't think they're taking her back. These guys know how to read a form, and I really think they're going to feel, if we have 6, 7, 8 lengths to make up or something like that from the 5/16 to the wire, we're not going to outkick Rich Strike or those kind of horses. But if we're right up in the fray, and if some reason We the People can't get a mile and a half, which there is a possibility, maybe we are there to inherit the lead, and maybe we can grind it out that way. So, yeah, will We the People be in front? Of course he will, but I don't think he's going to be 7, 8 lengths in front and 49. I think these horses are going to be on top of him, and We the People has to show me that he can get a mile and a half.
And we talked about connections earlier about potential pace scenarios in one of the other stakes races. Nest for Todd Pletcher and Rapoli Stable being the half owner here is half the connections for O'Donegal, right? I mean, it's the co-owner, and we know O'Donegal's a closer. So you're probably not going to run your 2 horses in the race with similar styles. So you're right. I think Nest does go closer, and I really did not project her in my original thought of the pace. But I could very well see her being the one that goes. And she's got the best mile and a half pedigree in the field, I think, with the AP Indy on the damn side, the Curlin up top. I think Ness has bred to run longer than any of these. And she was set a mile and 1/8 at the end of her 2-year-old campaign. They knew she was a router. She debuted at a mile and 16th in September. They didn't mess around with 6 furlong races at Saratoga in the summer. She's been a router from the word go. So she's interesting in there. I went back to O'Donegal. Some of it is handicappers' hubris or pride or whatever. He was my pick in the Kentucky Derby. I often come back with my Derby picks in their next start because if I love them that much going into the spring, I got to love them coming out of it. And off a defeat, that could help a little bit in terms of people's perception of O'Donegal. I know he's the second choice in the morning line. I won't be shocked if he actually gets bet to favoritism. It's Pletcher, it's Irad. Does the general public care that much about a 103 buyer speed figure for We the People? And they better as well have that freaking buyer right for him, right? I mean, there's going to be millions of dollars bet on that 103, and we've seen we saw with early voting, right, in the Withers, how they changed that after the fact, after he came back and ran so well in the Wood and other races or leading up to the Wood. But they're betting strictly a figure. There is no other reason on planet Earth for We the People to be 2 to 1. And I'm not knocking the morning line maker because he's trying to predict what the public's going to do. And the public may very well jump in on that 103. That won't be a complete shock if that happens, and he will have done his job properly. But I think the public did themselves injustice if they're just relying on a wet track speed figure. Good luck. Good luck.
I actually have it down to in the order of preference: Rich Strike, Mo Donegal, and Nest. And I'm throwing We the People out. I mean, I look, he can win, and so, but do I need him at 2 to 1? I mean, I don't. And Mo Donegal, who all he did was beat early voting 2 races back. I think that whole form is held. Yeah. And then last time out, he had the dreaded rail, and he had to come from around horses, and he actually ran really well. I would say this, that if he had the 20 hole and Rich Strike had the 1, and reverse those posts and those trips, I could have seen Mo Donegal be right there as well, because he was coming. He just had too much to do. But but I do think he'll go a mile and a half, and I respect him as a quality horse, and I see absolutely no reason on earth other than people think that you're going to steal the Belmont and no one's going to go with you and it's going to rain, which it won't, to bet on We the People at 2 to 1 over Mo Donegal at 5 to 2, or even Rich Strike at 7 to 2, or even Nest at 8 to 1.
Yeah,
So
I'm the same as you. I had originally tossed We the People all together, and I was going to use Ethereal Road as fourth in the wager guide, and Ethereal Road came out right before entries. So I wasn't going to use him anywhere in the top four. And then after the final entries came out, okay, he looks like potential loan speed. I'll throw him on the bottom fourth, but I don't like him at all.
right,
All my bets are Mo Donegal to uh, Rich Strike and Nest. I just think they're three standouts here. And beyond them, I don't see it. I mean, Creative Minister's a nice horse. He's running for the third time in 5 weeks. He ran well in the Preakness, but he didn't light anybody on fire that day. To think he's going to go a mile and a half, he could, but his running lines don't scream for it. His pedigree certainly is fine for it. Giants Causeway is the dam sire or the grandsire, and of course Tappet on the bottom of the pedigree. We mentioned this in our It's Official last week about the Tappets, having so much success with 4 winners as the sire in the last decade or so. But We the People is a grandson of Tappet, so we do have one in that respect. We've got Creative Minister as a grandson of Tappet, and Barber Road is a grandson of Tappet. Barber Road's kind of an interesting horse, 60-1 in the Derby, Jeff. He did close 2. He had the third fastest final quarter in the race behind Mo Donegal and Rich Strike. Rich Strike, the fastest final quarter in the Derby since Animal Kingdom back in 2011. So Barber Road, you got Joel Rosario. They're going to remove the blinkers for the first time since back in the career debut at Colonial last August. Curious to see how he does. If there is a horse who's not among the 3 you and I have been talking about, Nest, Mo Donegal, and Rich Strike, of course, Barber Road could get in there third and wouldn't be a total shock.
no, because he tries. He
Yeah.
stays on. And I could see him clunk up and get a minor reward. I'm not thinking about him as a winner, but
No, for sure.
you could see that, and I guess you could say the same thing about Creative Minister. But to me, the value is, as far as the way I'm playing the race, is to try to beat We the People, recognizing the possibility that any lone front runner who is not policed on the lead is always dangerous. And I think we'll find out as the field hits the far turn, right? What's still a half mile to go, though, with whether or not We the People is going to be going to win it or off the board. Because I don't think that Pletcher is going to allow We the People to just breeze on out there in 49 and change. And if he goes any faster than 48 or 48-1, whatever, that's still problematic going a mile and a half on a front runner. So. And we'll be watching the races to see how the track's playing. If it's a deeper, heavier, slower track, and that makes it more difficult for We the People, or if it's very, very fast, that might impact how he runs. But again, it's all the price here, and it's all 2-1. And saying to myself, I don't need 2-1 when I can get 7-2 on Rich Strike, or 8-1 on Nest, or even 5-2 on Mo Donegal. Those to me are all better horses and better prices than We the People.
Yeah, in terms of pick 5s, pick 4s, those exotic wagers you get, we've got $20,000 in additional money in the pick 4s and pick 5s in our Express Bet and First Bet hit and split promos. So again, this is the kind of card where a lot of these races aren't going to have a lot of intra-race value with big exotic payoffs. So you're looking at the multi-races, and then you get that extra $20,000 in cash out. That's like overlay money guaranteed. And, even if it's just a little bit, it's going to be more than other people are going to be getting, even playing with other ADWs. So you really want to look at the pick 4s and pick 5s. Jeff, I'm going to use 3 in the Belmont. I'm going to use the 2 Pletchers, Mo Donegal, and Ness, and of course, Strike, the Derby winner. I'm going to go 3 deep here and no deeper than that, and no more narrow than that. I think all 3 are legit win chances.
That's how I see it. Let's try to be right. We were pretty right in the Preakness, so let's see if we can be right in the Belmont.
All right, let's do it back to back, shall we? Want to remind you, if you like to play handicapping contests this week at Express Bet on Thursday and Friday, there are $80 entry fee feeder tournaments for this weekend's Belmont Challenge. So the Belmont Challenge on Saturday, the handicapping contest is $1,500 to play with a big entry fee. And, of course, you've got your bankroll to play in that live money contest. But you could get into Saturday's $1,500 Belmont Challenge by qualifying through Friday and Thursday, $80 feeder tournaments. So be sure to check out the tournament section at expressbet.com. Remember, you can only play tournaments at ExpressBet, not on the First Bet app. So be sure to go in and check those out. Then for $80, you might be playing in a $1,500 buy-in tournament for Saturday's Belmont Stakes Challenge. And that handicapping contest has some rich prizes for Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, Pegasus World Cup, National Handicapping Championship qualifying seats will be won in that Saturday tournament, as well as a big cash pot as well. All right, Jeff, final thought as we wrap up. We're at 1 hour and 4 minutes, which I think has set the North American record for our podcast.
Well, it is Belmont weekend, and we got, I don't know how many graded stakes. I didn't count them up, but we probably did most of them here. We did all the grade ones for sure. So it's going to be great racing, and I'm thrilled that at least at this stage, it looks like we're going to have a good fast track. So everybody has their chance. And it's just a great weekend of racing, and a better Belmont, I think, than you usually are going to see when there is no Triple Crown at stake. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And as we finish out the first half of the year with plenty of racing ahead, but this is important. It's important for Flightline. It's important for Rich Strike and so many others to establish themselves as we head on to the second half of the season, and that's where the championships are determined.
All right, my final thought, patience, grasshoppers, patience out there. It is a long 2 days. There are many great races that aren't that great of betting opportunities. Pounce on the good races where you have an opinion, where you have an edge. The field sizes, maybe a favorite that you don't like and you're trying to knock off. Direct your focus. Your handle can be just as much as it normally would be. Put a bigger lump on the ones where you've got the edge. Sit out the races where you don't have any edge at all, or play them very lightly just for grins. So be patient this weekend. Strike when you have the opportunity. That's good advice anytime, but it will be alluring to jump into a bunch of pools here this weekend that maybe, just maybe, you don't have an edge in and you should be waiting on. So we look forward to taking your bets at Express Bet and First Bet for sure as you line them up this weekend and try to knock out the final jewel in this year's Triple Crown. On behalf of everybody at First Technologies, my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Happy Belmont Stakes and good luck, everybody.